Hello, everyone. Gracias por estar aquí. We are in another segment of books that shape our work, story, science, and healing. And we are here with Kim, which I'm a big fan. I was just telling Kim that I swear I'm not a stalker, but I've been following her for a while. And she has different books, but we're going to be focusing on this one today. So that everyone can see it. Badass Bonita. Kim, how do you want to introduce to everyone who is learning from you today?
Hi, I'm Kim Guerra. Muchas gracias for having me here. Thank you so much for having me here. And I love this work that you're doing because it is so necessary.
Yeah.
This book was born when idea was planted when I was in grad school for my MFT, and I was writing a paper on Latinas and like a culturally informed, trauma informed perspective in therapy. And I remember feeling so frustrated because I couldn't find books written by Latinas for Latinas in the therapy world as therapists, but also as clients. And at that time, I was living in Seattle, which in many ways it's predominantly white.
Mhm.
The therapy world, my choices for therapists were very limited, and most of the time in therapy, I had to explain my experience as a Latina to my therapist. So most of the time, I was paying to educate my therapist, and I was paying to translate my existence.
Yeah.
Um, and also in the classroom in higher education, I had to educate my professors because oftentimes I was the only Latina in that classroom. So I had to raise my hand, and I was shaking because I was afraid to speak up, to say, hey, actually, this theory, this practice that you're teaching does not apply to a family like mine, from my socioeconomic status, cultural status, complex PTSD.
Yeah.
It doesn't take in mind immigration status, and it doesn't take in mind different values and language and different barriers. So if you apply this to a family with this context, it would cause more harm.
Yeah.
And so this book came from all of that kind of frustration, saying, okay, if it doesn't exist, I'm going to have to write it myself one day
Yeah.
and implement the tools that helped me. Because yes, there were tools or theories that were not applicable, but then there was other ones that were. After also I started working with clients, I saw which ones were most helpful
Yeah.
to Latinas, queer folks, BIPOC, and put them in a way that is accessible to both, to the therapists
Yeah.
and to the clients that they're working with.
Oh, I love that. Which I think most of us, right, who are considered either a minority, backpack, depending on the level that we're using,
Mhm.
we realize that yes, when we go, there's like nothing representing us. So thank you for doing this. Which again, in your book, Badass, Break the Silence, Become a Revolution, I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Um, what did you hope? As I share with you, I shared books with mental health therapists. What did you hope your book, or how do you imagine your book will support mental health therapists in their clinical work?
I hope that it provides a lens and a bridge, to understand the culture, the complexity, that it's not just. I've worked with a lot of therapists, especially in the US, who are very by the book and very by like what do you use? DBT, CBT, EDR, and EDMR, which
Yeah.
is great. And many of us from different cultures,
Yeah.
different perspectives, different life, um, that's something, language and tools that we don't
Yeah.
really seek out. We seek out, are you a person that I can trust?
Yeah.
Are you a person who will understand me and help me because I'm coming to you because I need help and I am hurting?
Yeah.
And I don't want to get hurt more.
Yeah.
if you don't understand me, or if you will judge me, or if you will not create a safe space, because we were raised thinking that therapy was not a safe space for us or was not meant for us. And oftentimes that's also how it's taught. It's not taught for us or by us. So I
Yeah.
really hope therapists use this book, or use what, it doesn't have to be this book in particular, but use this opportunity to create those bridges and make therapy a safe and accessible place
Mhm.
for people that are not just white upper middle class folk.
Yeah. No, I love this. So even when I think about and tell me what comes to you, because I was like, I already went and did notes in regards to the themes, but what themes or concepts in your book do you think are helpful for, especially right now,
Mhm.
for all the clinical work that we're doing? Um, yeah, what themes do you think are can be used by therapists?
Yeah, so my book is on me as a therapist. I have a very systemic lens, so I don't focus just on the individual. We have to take in not only the family system, the cultural system, societal system that they're part of, and how that impacts their individual and experience in every part of their life. Their
Yeah.
relational experiences. I do inner child work because so many of us are carrying such deep wounds, and inner niña work or inner niño work is a term that a lot of us hear and you're like, oh, okay, yes, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
And instead of calling it complex PTSD, because if we say, oh yes, let's talk about your complex PTSD to a Latina or to a Latina mom, like, no, 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 eso no, yo no tengo eso, no, no,
Yeah.
no. Pero if we say, oh, let's talk about your wounds as from childhood.
Yeah.
So, sí, no, es que de niña, niña, and like
Yeah.
they open up to tell you everything that happened to them as a child,
Yeah.
and we, I go in with so much love and tenderness,
Yeah.
and not just labels of like, oh yes, that is, physical, sexual, emotional abuse, and this is it.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes they'll say, no, 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 that no, it's not, it wasn't that bad, no. So
Yeah.
it's like learning how to come in
Yeah.
with love and tenderness in language and tools that people will gravitate towards and not reject. So in our intergenerational work, we are very a collectivistic, intertwined community, and learning how to take into consideration that all our stories are pretty tightly knit, and learning how to also set boundaries in a way that people from our community can accept the concept of boundaries without it saying like, no, go, we don't do that. We don't have boundaries in this family. I can't, I don't say no.
I was gonna say like we feel guilty for yeah,
Yes.
putting boundaries, right?
Yeah.
As you were talking, because I was like, "Are you kidding me?" When I first read your book, on chapter 2, you talk about systems and seeds, sistemas and semillas, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my God, you're breaking down. You are humanizing that whole chapter, so that anyone who's reading it can see like, oh." That's a projection. That's what I took. And I didn't know that I took it. And that's how either me being calladita or me not complaining or me pleasing or me like doing all these things comes about. And even when you use the chapter 3 mensajitos in our garden, I was like, holy, I started making a list of all the mensajes that I pick up either because I was born in Mexico,
Mhm.
because I'm the oldest, because I'm
Being a woman.
like the expectation of you have to get married, you have to get children, you have to be strong, you have to carry your cross. Why in Mexico we're told that's your cross to bear?
Mhm.
So the way that you broke it down, and even talking about trauma encounters, like it was so gentle that
Mhm.
for me was like a given. Asking my clients, can we read this chapter together? Tell me
Mhm.
what resonated for you. Tell me about the reflections in the book. What do you notice?
Mhm.
Such a beautiful way. It feels like you were like co-therapist in the room. That's what it felt
Mhm.
like. So I'm wondering if therapists, because we know the caseloads in the US, we know all the notes, we know the systems that they work with.
Mhm.
As an MFT, I'm wondering if therapists only had one chapter that they must read, what will be the chapter you say, start here? I say,
Um, See, I mean, I wouldn't say probably the systems and semilla, the inner niña chapter, but I think systems and semilla gives plenty of tools. Like the first three give more tools,
yeah,
and education, and and it provides the language and some of the vocabulary that can help clients kind of expand, like we do the genogram. I believe that's in chapter two.
yeah,
Um, and I would say there, but the most important part, I would say that it's like what you said, it's learning how to approach these things with gentleness. Like in Espanol, con cariñito, I tell my clients, I believe we heal best with tenderness. Like we don't have to belly flop into healing. We don't have to re-traumatize ourselves into healing. We
yeah,
can enter in a loving, safe way so that we can unpack these things. Oftentimes we come in scared when it comes to therapy. We come in very scared, very anxious,
yeah,
and one of the biggest roles as a therapist is to learn how to use language and tools and provide a place that is safe for that client, that it's not a one size fits all,
yeah,
um, and to understand the system that they are a part, how they're showing up in the world is also how they're showing up in your office, and to be aware of not perpetuating the same systems of oppression that they're facing outside.
yeah.
So I would say two and three provide more of a context and bridge for therapists and clients to invite their invite and co-create a safe place together.
I love that. Um, I follow you on social media, so I know you're an advocate. The way that you talk, the way that you embrace us, the way like it's with such a nurture that you do. But I'm wondering, for everyone who's not familiar with your work, how does your book address issues of identity, power, culture? I think it's throughout, but how will you describe that systemic barriers in therapy
Mhm.
to other clinicians?
I think one, it's important to one name them and talk about them, put a name to it, and say and know your own story of internalized oppression, your own experiences of oppression, and to know who you are as a person, as a therapist, and how you show up in a space, and how you also what your wounds are. And um, I think it's important to not shy away from your own humanity, because that's also part of our strength, that we have to be constantly self-aware of what's happening in our external world. We have to be constantly examining who we are and stepping into our power, and encouraging our clients to do so. But one of the things that I tell my clients, but a lot of my clients are really, they're leaders, they're educators, they're principals, they're people that are advocating constantly, and oftentimes we feel this pressure to perform,
Yeah,
or we don't, or to survive, or to be hardened.
yeah,
And oftentimes I tell my clients and also my colleagues, it's like we have to also not just model being human, but we have to model showing them that a different reality is possible by how we are also living our life and stepping into our healing journey. In the book, I share so much of my story, and many therapists are like, "Oh my God, like you're sharing so much," and la la la.
yeah.
And aren't you afraid of your clients? I'm like, no, I want them to see my humanity and know my story, and know that I am still a work in progress.
Yeah,
And that because of all that I've lived
yeah,
and continue to heal, like it also invites them into their own story and healing to write their own story.
yeah. And I think for all of us, right, who follow you, who have been reading
Mm-hmm.
who listen to your TEDx, like everything that you do, I think all of us see ourselves in the stories that you're sharing. So you're providing a template on how to
Mhm.
take that space and share. And
See, kind of like use me, use my story, use my mistakes, like como aquí está.
yeah, y eso hace que el cliente pueda venir y se sienta más a gusto por, like, oh, todas las partes son bienvenidas aquí.
Hmm. Yeah.
Me encanta. I have to share with you because I wrote it down. Like my favorite chapter was not only three mensajitos in our garden, but also who the fuck you are. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, beautiful. Even the title, I was like, okay, we're going there.
We are. See, tell me about that. Like what did it bring up for you reading that?
I think growing up in Mexico, I grew up in Mexico and came to the US when I was 16 years old. So unconsciously or consciously, my family told me over and over again I had no voice and I was there to serve. So because I've been going through my healing and then migrating to the US and being told, who are you here? Because we're all about labels in the US. Um, and I think I was going to my madness era when I was reading uh, your book. I got tired of people telling me who you are and projecting into who I was. That who the fuck are you? I was like, excuse me, let me. And I love the butterfly metaphor that you use, which is, excuse me, pardon my language, motherfuckers. Like, move away. This is who I am. So
Mm-hmm.
embracing into I am Liliana. Or mi nombre es Liliana, and I don't have to be silenced. I don't have to do
Hmm.
it in a disrespectful way, but I don't have to be silenced. I can embrace who am I. I can embrace my needs. I can embrace my wants. I can advocate, and you've been doing such a beautiful in your videos. I can advocate for what I want and what I need, and I'm deserving of. So that whole chapter was like, you woke me up.
Hmm. Sí, porque a veces que when somebody asks you like, "Oh, who are you?"
Yeah,
Um, it sends us into a panic because like I don't know. Like, not knowing the answer to that question,
yeah,
it's a reality for a lot of Latinas because we were raised being told exactly who we should be and
yeah,
who we shouldn't be, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, how
yeah.
we should sit, how we shouldn't sit, what
Oh,
we should say, what we shouldn't say. So it was all very
yeah,
set and prescribed and rigid. And then when you somebody asks you, not your mom, not your tia, not your abuela,
yeah,
and you maybe even discover like I get to decide the answer to that question. And I get to tell the world who the fuck I am.
yeah,
They don't need to tell me anymore. I get to say who
yeah,
I am and who I am becoming.
yeah,
And that there's so much power in that, in
yeah,
simply saying and reclaiming who you are, your identity.
yeah. Yesterday I was traveling. I went into a conference and I was traveling back and I wore a shirt that says phenomenal woman.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said, excuse me, thinking highly of ourselves. I was like, yes, I am. Move away. Yeah. I was like, first of all, why are you reading my shirt?
Why are you talking to me?
And then why? Like that took courage to come and ask me that and
Yes,
I
it's
think
like
highly of myself.
yeah, it's like they are like I don't even want to. Yes, of course I do. This is not even the full list of who I am.
It's like, let's move away and bye bye.
Yeah.
Um, love this conversation. Which brings me into what do you hope therapists, social workers, MFTs, professionals, hell, like all of us, psychologists, do differently after we read your book?
Take care of yourself, love yourself, hold yourself. Like, I hope that you read this and that it holds you the way that you need to be held, and that it also invites you to hold your clients in a different, loving, caring way.
Yeah.
Um, y que se puedan acompañar. with a tenderness, that you can accompany one another with tenderness, that it gives you the permission to be human, that it gives you the permission to nurture yourself too, because oftentimes therapists, social workers, case managers, we often put ourselves in the back burner, um,
Yeah.
and we get to also model loving ourselves. We also get to model healing. We get to model peace. We get to model living beyond and outside of our trauma story and writing, continuing the story beyond that.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, when we're often dealing with other people's trauma and other people's needs and other people's worries and the systems that we're operating in, we we forget that we also get to take up space. And I wrote Badass Bonita because I needed it first.
Yeah.
And because I knew that if I needed it, many others would, but also if I filled myself and continued this journey, it would allow me to serve and uphold my clients better.
Yeah. And then for all of you, again, you go get this book. At the end of the chapter, we have lots of affirmations. So as I was reviewing, because I read your book as soon as it came out, I this weekend I was like, okay, let's go through it. And then I found like the one that I needed this weekend, which it will follow what you said, which is I resist by resting. My joy is resistance. My voice is revolutionary. And I was like, girl, how do you knew? How do you knew? How do you know that this is in Spanish so much better? Um, yo resisto cuando descanso. Mi alegría es resistencia. Mi voz es revolucionaria.
Mhm.
There's such a power you having them both ways, and depending on the language where that injury occurred or we were told, right? If it was either in English because of school academia, or if it was in Spanish
Sí.
because of family roots or
Mhm.
projections, depending on, it will have a different tone. But I so appreciated that you had both of them in both languages
Mhm.
because it has different meaning in each
Sí.
language.
Sí, como dices, it touches on different parts of our heart and our story, y que cada idioma trae su propia medicina, for the places that we need. Y
Yeah.
otro elemento que también estaba pensando, that many of us did not grow up hearing positive,
Mm-mm.
reaffirming things en español o
Yeah.
en inglés, pero creo que es algo muy especial también in most of ours, like, first language, de aprender a decirnos cosas bonitas. Y that's a huge part of why I started writing and sharing my writing, because I was like, I need to tell myself cosas bonitas that nobody told me, but I need to hear. So I guess I'm going to be the one to say them.
And I think this is where when we started, right? Like this is where
Sí.
this one comes about. So
Mhm.
for all of you who are learning about Kim, welcome. We're gonna include all her social media, her stuff below the video. This is the book that you want to read to help clients. If you are a Latina, you have to read this book. It's a must. And if you want affirmations, ideas for at the end of sessions with your clients, or even like when you start, this one is just amazing in regards to like we can weave it in or give
Mhm.
them as notes when clients leave, because sometimes they just need that extra,
Sí.
right? So, Kim, thank you. You have no idea how you just made my day for being here. Keep shining, keep doing all those videos, those retreats that you're doing. For all of you who are out there, I will include Kim's website.
Mhm.
There's themes in regards to your retreats, and I love that so much. One of these days, when my kids are not doing something, I'm gonna be able and partake, especially because they're happening in Mexico.
Mhm. Yes, it's so powerful. They're so beautiful because so much of what we do in the book, we get to live it out together in persona, and it's amazing.
Anything else that you want to share for anyone who's learning about you?
I would share, like, don't hesitate to reach out. And I love working with therapists, like being a therapist to therapists, because I'm like, we also need to be held and we also need to get filled up. So don't hesitate to reach out. and to constantly remind yourself that you're doing beautiful, brave work, necessary work,
Yeah.
um, with these clients that I often tell my clients and colleagues, it's like we don't usually get gold stars by society. It's like, what have you? I'm like, I'm healing like my deepest traumas, and I know that I wouldn't be able to do that without my therapist. Um, and it's often things that we don't get rewards from in the outside world.
Yeah.
That our work can be very behind the scenes,
Yeah.
very deep in the shadows, but it's so beautiful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being you, and thank you for all the messages that you're sharing. Until next time.
Yes.